Her death notice read, quote, "First name and last name, Anna Yegorova. Rank and position, Senior Lieutenant, Navigator of the 805th Assault Regiment. Party affiliation, member of the All-Union Communist Party since 1943. In the Red Army since 1941. Brief description of combat feats or merits. She made 277 successful sorties on Polikarpov II and Ilyushin II aircraft. Personally destroyed, followed by a long list of tanks, guns, mortars, cars, barges, carts with cargo, enemy manpower, and so on. Did she have any wounds or other injuries? She died a heroic death while performing a combat mission on August 20th, 1944. A fearless pilot, she flew boldly and confidently into battle. On the battlefield, she behaved courageously and heroically. As a regiment navigator, she navigated perfectly in any weather conditions and on various terrain. For heroic deeds demonstrated in battles to destroy enemy manpower and equipment, and excellent execution of command assignments on the fronts of the patriotic war, for skillful leadership of subordinates, for 10 combat sorties carried out as a leader without losses of wingmen, she is worthy of being nominated for the highest government award, Hero of the Soviet Union." End quote. This death notice was even delivered to her mother, followed by a posthumous military pension. Her mother fell ill from the piercing grief, but did not want to believe in Anna's death. Her beloved daughter was just shy of turning 28 years old. And she didn't die. Miraculously, Anna went on to live a long life, a very long life. But when the crash happened, she did not know this yet. Was she one of the famous night witches, the female Soviet combat pilots during World War II? Anna Yegorova was one of the most renowned pilots of the time, but she was not officially part of the Night Witches, an all-female group of military aviators. Anna primarily worked with men, including being a leader. Nonetheless, when she was captured, the Nazi Germans still called her a night witch, according to her memoirs. Hey guys, I'm Nina. Welcome to my channel if you're new. Welcome back if you've been here before. This week marks the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II in Europe. Initially, I was going to make a rather scathing video, which is my style, about the behavior and comments of certain Western politicians when it comes to marking this date. As you know, or may not know, the former Soviet Union lost approximately 27 million people in this war, and it was responsible for approximately 75% of Nazi German losses on the Eastern Front, the overwhelming part of the war in Europe. This is why people in Russia and certain other places still treat this date very seriously, even though to some it may seem like 80 years ago was so long ago, and it is irrelevant to them in some ways. It's not irrelevant to people in the places in question because this war impacted every single family in some way. It's part of their family history, and even today you can go into any forest in the European part of Russia and you're likely to find some remnant of this war, for instance, spent shell casings. So then I thought a little bit about it, and I decided that rather than being consumed by my repulsion for these politicians, I instead am going to do something positive. I want to tell you a story that you may not know about. The story is positive. This is a story of survival of a famous female Russian Soviet pilot, Anna Yegorova, at the end of World War II. In the video, I call her Anna, and I do that for consistency. If you speak more than one language, you know that it's really difficult to jump back and forth even when it comes to names and not pronounce them consistently all the way around. So without further ado, let's jump in. She was born in 1916, just before the Russian Revolution, in the countryside, in the Tver region, a few hours outside Moscow. She only received a basic education and worked on developing the famous Moscow subway just before World War II. But she did have one passion, the sky. So she joined an aviation club and eventually completed flight school. At the start of World War II, Anna was a pilot in the 130th Communications Aviation Squadron of the Southern Front. Then she joined attack aviation and fought as part of the 805th Assault Aviation Regiment. She was the only female pilot in her regiment during the liberation of Poland. Now, let's get back to Anna's 1944 crash. This is what she writes about her remarkable story of survival behind enemy lines. Quote, "By some miracle, I was thrown out of the burning attack aircraft. When I opened my eyes, I saw that I was falling without a plane and without a parachute. Just before I hit the ground, I don't remember how, I tore the ring out. The smoldering parachute opened, but not completely. I came to from terrible pain that squeezed my whole body. I couldn't move. My head was burning like fire, my spine was unbearably sore, and my arms and legs were burned almost to the bone. I opened my eyes with difficulty and saw a soldier in a gray-green uniform above me. A terrible guess pierced me more painfully than all the physical pain. A fascist, I'm with the fascists." End quote. Here, Anna is referring to Nazi German troops. Quote, "This, perhaps, was the only thing I was most afraid of. Moral pain as 100 times more terrible than fire, bullets, and physical pain. The thought feverishly repeated in my mind. I'm a prisoner, helpless, deprived of the ability to resist. I can't even reach out for the gun." And the German put his foot on my chest and, for some reason, pulled on my broken arm. Oblivion. I woke up from the impact with the ground. The Nazis were trying to put me in the car, but I couldn't stay up. Every time they let go, I fell down. They brought a stretcher and put me on it. As if in a dream, I heard Polish speech. Maybe the guerrilla fighters recaptured us? A flash of hope. After all, everything was happening on Polish soil, and we fought side by side with the Polish army. But no, I saw the Nazi Germans again. I heard their speech. End quote. Anna was not given any medicine for her injuries. The captive Poles, quote, "simply bandaged her and cleverly hid all her awards and party card under the bandages," end quote. Later, these IDs, which definitively prove her identity to her own side, would become problematic. In early September, Anna ended up in the Stalag 3C concentration camp that mainly housed POWs in Küstrin, Western Poland. Today it's Küstrin. Pardon my pronunciation. The prisoner population was diverse. Various Soviet and Yugoslav ethnicities, Poles, Americans, British, Belgians, and the French. Most of the estimated Soviet prisoners were starved or killed. These estimates go up to 12,000 people. In the camp, several people helped Anna survive. First, she was treated by a medical instructor, Yulia Krashenka, who was also captured in Poland as she was treating wounded soldiers. Next was a secret German communist, Helmut Schascher, who worked as a guard. He was actually transferred out of this camp before Anna's arrival, but found ways to help the prisoners. Another guardian angel was Pavle Tripnach, a professor of Belgrade University. Pavle spoke to Anna in half Serbian and half Russian. Later, he would be awarded by the Soviet Union, quote, "for courage and bravery shown in saving the lives of Soviet prisoners of war during the Great Patriotic War, award a citizen of the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, Pavle Tripnac, with the Order of the Patriotic War, second degree." End quote. Anna and Pavle maintained communication after the war, though it took them a while to find each other. In 1963, Anna received her first letter in which Pavle told her that he was alive and well and in charge of the Department of Biochemistry in Belgrade. But the person who perhaps helped Anna the most was the Russian doctor Georgy Sinyakov. Born outside Voronezh in Russia, he was captured in Ukraine early in the war, in late 1941. Thanks to his superb surgical skills, the camp staff made him their surgeon, and he treated everyone, including the POWs. As a result, he had somewhat of a privileged position in the camp compared to ordinary captives, and he used it accordingly. He shared his rations and walked around freely within the confines of the camp. The doctor was part of an underground network that helped escape thousands of captives. Some refer to him as the Russian Schindler, and he deserves his own coverage. But for the sake of brevity, it suffices to say that the surgeon used his privileged position to create zombies. Well, sort of. He listed certain patients as dead, having treated them with special ointments that healed their wounds but made them look terrible on the surface, to make their supposed deaths believable to the Nazi German staff. Dr. Sinyakov and his team preemptively supplied these patients with compasses and maps. Then the supposed dead were dumped in a ditch outside the camp with real corpses and, in due time, were resurrected. It is estimated that he helped escape thousands of captives over his almost 3 or so years in this camp. For example, he helped 16 pilots flee in this way, according to Anna's memoirs. It is not surprising that so many prisoners were desperate to flee. Anna describes the conditions of the camp as you would expect. Prisoners were all skin and bone, and their skin was covered in injuries, burns, and lesions. If one prisoner were to quote-unquote misbehave, then the entire barrack full of already malnourished captives would be punished by being deprived of food for up to 3 days. Some were killed for no apparent reason. One of the worst places in this camp was the medical barracks. Quote, "Sheer hell, hunger, dirt, beatings, groans, and death." Doctors from Berlin organized a medical and experimental center in one of the barracks, where patients were inoculated with various infectious diseases, and some had perfectly healthy limbs amputated. End quote. But the Red Army was on the way. On January 27, 1945, they liberated Auschwitz, something today's officials in certain Western countries brazenly leave out of their narrative every Holocaust Remembrance Day. The camp in which Anna was imprisoned was freed a couple of days later. The Red Army liberated the remaining prisoners, including the Americans and the British, who were then repatriated to their home countries. You won't hear this from Western politicians either. Oops. I promised you guys to stay away from modern politics. Okay, back to Anna's memoir. Quote, "And it was already January 1945. On the last day of the month, Major Ilyin's tank crews from the 5th Shock Army liberated the damn camp. 2 days before our troops arrived, the SS men drove everyone who could stand up on their feet out of their barracks, lined them up in columns, surround them with German shepherd dogs, and escorted them west. Only the dying and some doctors and orderlies under the command of Dr. Sinyakov remained in the camp. They secretly dug a hole under the operating room and hid in it until liberation." End quote. One source states that in this way, the wonderful Russian doctor, as Anna calls him, saved about 3,000 of the remaining prisoners who were in the worst condition compared to the sort of healthier prisoners who were taken out. Anna continues, quote, "Through the bars of the window, I saw a Gestapo man and 2 machine gunners running into the French barracks and shooting. Apparently, they were finishing off those who could not walk. But then the gunshots, which had reached the camp like distant thunder, sounded very close, nearby. Shells were exploding first to the right and then to the left of the punishment cell, which was locked. There had been no sentry near me for a long time. Then, suddenly, everything went silent. There was a lull. The door swung open and I looked. Our tankmen were on the threshold. I rose solely thanks to my joy and slowly walked. Putting on the gift slippers with red stars on the toes, sewn for me by an unknown friend, I rested my hands on the bunks, leaned forward, and my legs were shaking like strings. The flabby muscles did not obey me. The skin had just stretched over the burns and then immediately cracked and bled. Stop, sit down for a bit, take a break, I said to myself. And then again, carefully slid along the floor. Another step. I swayed, but did not fall. I held on, and now, holding onto the wall, I was already walking." End quote. After liberation, Dr. Sinyakov continued operating, this time on wounded Soviet soldiers, and went all the way to Berlin, where he left his signature on the Reichstag. Anna underwent Soviet filtration. Smersh, which literally stands for death to spies, the Soviet counterintelligence was perplexed about the fact that she was able to keep all her IDs while imprisoned under such extreme conditions. She was questioned for 10 days. Evidently, Anna was so impressive that not only did the Soviet counterintelligence eventually believe her, but the Smersh unit of the 32nd Rifle Corps of the 5th Shock Army offered her a job. She declined. Anna returned to civilian life and married the former commander of the 197th Assault Aviation Division, Vyacheslav Timofeyev. 20 years after the war's end, Anna finally received the highest honor, Hero of the Soviet Union, for which she was posthumously nominated when she was presumed dead. Anna lived for another 65 years.